Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to another video, and for those of you who've watched my streams in the past, I think you all would pretty much agree I'm a pretty big Halo fan, and have been since the first Halo game. I mean, I've got that Xbox there that's been in the back for a long time, so yeah, I'm a pretty big Halo fan, and I have been really excited for Halo Infinite, which is weird because I haven't really been excited for a Halo game in a long time. Halo 4 was kind of exciting, mainly just because we got to see Master Chief again, but the story for me as a Halo story kind of let me down, and then Halo 5 just sort of drove the knife in the rest of the way. And seeing everything that's been happening with Halo Infinite has made me more and more excited, and I figured I would make a video about it, but the last few times that I made a video, it just turned into this sort of cringy fanboy rant that I ended up deleting. So I figured this would be a perfect opportunity to use a format that I already use on this channel and use it for gaming instead of anime, because while I normally don't talk about gaming, it's not something I don't have opinions on. So today, we're going to be talking about the top 5 things that I'm most excited for in Halo Infinite. So let's get started. Coming off the top at number 5 is gameplay. Now, like many Halo fans, I was sort of about the sprinting when we first saw it in the campaign demo, but it has been shown to work in other Halo games when implemented correctly, like Halo Reach. I think the main reason a lot of us were sort of about sprint was because the enhanced movement that was added with Halo 5 really sort of took that too far and made it an extreme use case, and where Reach sort of did it right, Halo 5 really did it wrong, and I feel like Infinite's probably trying to go a little more back towards what Reach did. Not to focus entirely on sprint, but I do feel like, especially for moments like these...
Gee, I sure am glad sprinting isn't in Halo. That would sure ruin this experience for me.
Yeah, getting kicked out of a vehicle in a vehicle section, being able to move more quickly is definitely a good option, and with the new open world format that Halo Infinite's going for, it's almost a necessity if you don't have a vehicle. So yeah, I think sprint is probably going to work a little better in this than the enhanced mobility and the fairly linear pathways we got with Halo 5. Now, moving away from sprint, the gameplay itself when it comes to the gunplay and close quarters and ranged combat definitely seems to be very polished, both in campaign and multiplayer. Like, I know a lot of people had complaints about the visuals with Halo Infinite's campaign demo, but gameplay was not something I think a lot of people had complaints about, at least I know I certainly didn't. The way the elites move, the way the brutes show up, interact with the player and actually attack the player is really interesting. The grunts interactions, the jackals. I love the jackal walking around without his shield, giving the player an opportunity to actually attack him, and if you fail to kill him on the first hit, then he fires up his shield. That's a really cool attention to detail that I love. Now, with Joe Staten sort of back in the mix, especially getting to see him in this Vidoc style that we saw during this year's E3, having him talk about what makes Halo's multiplayer good really gives me hope for multiplayer gameplay. And from everything we saw during the trailer this year, it looks incredible. The grapple hook actually seems genuinely useful in gameplay. Some of the new, like the Lancer weapon, where you can take out a vehicle, or at least push a vehicle, that seems really cool. The time limit that you have with vehicles when they're just about to go off, that reminds me a lot of like the old GTA 5 and GTA 4, where you get like the vehicles slowly burning and you'd have to bail or else it would just blow up with you in it. That's really cool. The return of the freaking chopper, that thing had so many cool and unique gameplay traits that I hope they brought into this game. So genuinely, the gameplay seems to be getting a lot of refinements and getting to be this very tight, clean setup for multiplayer and this really expansive, fun, interactive combat world in the campaign. So overall, seems to be pretty solid. But there's a few other things that I'm even more excited for, like number 4, the graphics. Now, the graphics were one of those more controversial things from the last gameplay demo we got during the campaign demo because it was really not finished, and it's clear that it wasn't finished. We have really not great textures, the lighting's weird, the time of day they picked was awful, the shadows weren't great, and everything looked kind of cartoony, which we'll talk more about in a minute. But looking at this now, look at his armor, look at that detail. This is incredible, and assuming they're doing what it seems like they're doing when we saw last year's demo, the cutscenes and gameplay all happen in real time in engine, and I have a feeling that this fidelity is only going to be possible on things like the 1X or the Series X, because there's no way in hell the 1S is going to be pulling this off. I still feel like this fidelity really shows that they are dramatically working to improve the visuals of this game. And hopefully it carries through to gameplay. It seems to be. We saw the multiplayer demos, and those looked incredible. The graphics looked great. It's this weird merge of sort of the lighting engine from like Halo 3 in a way. Halo 3 has like the best lighting I've ever seen in any game, to be honest. And like the detailing in armor and weaponry of Halo Reach. It's sort of this weird mesh, which, considering their whole thing is a celebration of past Halos, that would actually make sense. Overall, I think that the graphics look great now, and even last year I thought they looked okay. There were some graphical hitches, which obviously I would chalk up to things like, I don't know, an early build of the game, but the improvements they've made are incredible, and we've now seen them both in cutscene and in motion in gameplay, so I think they've made some improvements. Now, I mentioned this opinion to a couple friends, and they really seem to kind of confuse graphics with art style. They are two very different things. While they are mutually beneficial to one another, they are very different things, which is why art style is my number 3. I love this art style, I can't lie. This is probably one of the things that gets me more excited. Obviously, it's at number 3, but it feels like an old Halo game with new graphics. I mean, Master Chief's armor, hold on, look at this. Like, if I were to go back in time and show this to somebody at Halo 3's launch, they would just think that it looks like Master Chief, because it does look like Master Chief. It doesn't have this weird sci-fi vibe going on. It's Master Chief. He's got the helmet that looks like the helmet that set the stage for every Halo game that Bungie ever made except for Reach. And it's got the chest plate that actually looks like a chest plate. There's a few things they added that are sort of 343, like the more practical design shoulder plates or the different shoes, and obviously the guns are going to be a little more Reach inspired or unique in some instances, like the shotgun. But overall, I mean, it's Master Chief. Another big thing they changed that I am so happy for is the design of the enemies, because, not to go too far off on a tangent, but the enemies from Halo 4 and 5, number one, I didn't like their art style. I didn't like the jackals looking like these dinosaur creatures. I didn't like the grunts with the methane tubes up their noses, and the elites just looked like monsters, not these noble warriors. But another thing that made me not like the enemies was how they played in-game. Not so much how they fought you, but how you saw them, and that's an art style thing. I watched a video a little while ago by a YouTuber named Noodle, and he mentioned how the art style from Halo 1 was very basic. If it was on screen, it served a purpose. And one of the best examples of that is how all the enemies were in bright, noticeable primary colors against basic backgrounds that did not conflict with the actual colors of the enemies. So you could look and see exactly what you needed to know at a glance and be ready for that moment of combat. Prometheans broke all those rules. You could barely tell what was going on, and they blended into this super complex background. It was a mess, and it made it really hard to tell which enemies were holding which weapons, which on Legendary can mean making it through the level or not. And while the Covenant were a little more distinguishable than the Prometheans, they were still very noisy and visually busy, and it just made it hard to tell what was what, so you just shot and hoped you killed something. But Halo Infinite has brought it back to being this, not cartoony, but just super clean design where you see an enemy, you know what it is, and you generally know what rank based on color. And don't even get me started with the freaking environments. They literally look like if somebody properly remastered Halo CE's first level of Halo. Like, it looks so freaking good. We're not going to talk about Halo Anniversary because that remaster is garbage. But yeah, this looks freaking awesome. So if they're going to do that, sign me up. I don't know. I think that it's just a really cool step in the right direction. It means old Halo fans can look at these enemies and actually see what they are. It's a callback in a lot of ways because Master Chief looks like Halo 2 and 3's Master Chief. We have things like the Jackals looking like Jackals. I made that comment in my reaction video to this year's E3 trailer. You've got the Marines looking like these militaristic characters again, not future mall cops. It's just overall a better design, and I'm really excited to see them return to form in a lot of ways. And again, they've said that they've been taking some inspiration from Halo CE, so why not? Now, moving on to number 2, I'm kind of cheesing this one because I'm including both the setting and the story in one, because in a lot of ways, I feel like they're going to play into one another really well. So yeah, setting and story. I am very excited for both of these because the setting is finally on a Halo ring. After almost a decade away from a Halo ring, we are finally back on Halo. It's refreshing in a lot of ways to be on a Halo ring again in a game called Halo. It's really cool as somebody who's read a few books from Halo to actually be on Zeta Halo, potentially one of the most important Halos, barring the one from Halo CE. And the fact that it's open world is so awesome. And I'm sure there's going to be some restrictions in terms of open world, but the way it's set up just seems to be so good. It's something that this franchise has needed, is just sort of a kick in the new direction without completely departing from the originals like what Halo 5 did. With Joe Staten at the reins in terms of storytelling, I'm really hopeful for the story of this. We've got characters like the Weapon, which we've been introduced to, and we've got old favorites like Cortana, who is apparently still in the game, but we don't know exactly to what capacity. Hopefully we get the Arbiter. I really hope we get the Arbiter, though I'm not going to hold out too much hope. We've got, of course, Master Chief being Master Chief and not being this emotional ghost in the shell that we have to empathize with instead of just being. I love all of that. And the fact that the open world really does seem to contribute to this story, so we can sort of do the story at our own pace and explore the world. There seems to be a theme that I kind of noticed while watching the original E3 announcement from 2018, which is the whole pop in the smoke and seeing it off in the distance. We see that now recurring in the most recent trailer, because originally we see injured Marines in the first trailer, pop smoke, drop it, and then Chief sees it in the distance and goes to rescue them. And in the flyover from this year's event, we see red smoke from an encampment of Banished. So that is actually a really interesting concept, that we can see those in the distance, go there, potentially get some more Marines to fight on our team, and be in a better situation to maybe take on another portion of the story. I don't know. All that obviously does help in terms of the open world and the story, but it also bridges into gameplay. A lot of this stuff is just so closely knit, which is how it should be. It's not very separated like it's been in previous Halo games. I mean, overall, this world, this setting that they've put us in definitely feels like a very expansive version of the second mission of Halo CE. And if it is, I mean, sign me up. I loved spending so much time exploring that entire environment from Halo CE. I mean, that mission on Halo was so just impactful to me. I'm going to be getting a sleeve on one side for video games and a sleeve on the other side for anime. And believe me, Halo is going to be front and center. But yeah, that was just incredible. Seeing that flyover really does give me this huge flashbacks to that. So hopefully they're not just banking on nostalgia, they're actually banking on a well-designed world. But time will tell. Now, at number one is something that in most things that I watch, I consider extremely, extremely important. And for Halo, from 1 to 2 to 3 to especially ODST and Reach, the standard has been set so high that no other game that I've played, to be brutally honest, has ever met them. It's gotten close, but has never met it. That is the music. Marty O'Donnell nailed the music when it comes to Halo in every Halo game, especially ODST. Something about that music, just, I could fall asleep listening to that. And it's this very militaristic and foreign and mysterious vibe, and it is unique with every song, and the way they implement it with things like the dynamic changes. When you go into a different area, it begins to play. Or when you kill a certain enemy, it begins to play. Enemy! There are so many unique things that they did in the original Halo games that brought it to life with the music, and I didn't really like it in 4 and 5. It's got a sort of sci-fi vibe, and the closest we ever got to that nostalgic vibe from Halo 1, 2, and 3 is, well, honestly, it's the opening title for Halo 5, because they just straight up play Halo's theme. But listening to the music from Halo Infinite, it feels, again, like the art style, a return to form. We have music that is militaristic at moments, and sad or regrettable at moments, or exciting and energetic when it needs to be. And of course, these moments like at the very intro of Master Chief in the first E3 trailer. Just so nostalgic. So this is where I'm getting into sort of fanboy rant territory. I'm going to dial it back here. But yeah, the music seems to be hitting all the right notes, pun intended. We've got the classic Halo theme with a few extra notes that seem to sort of make it different, but still has the same vibe. We have, again, another moment where they play Luck, or a derivative of Luck, when you hear Cortana talking in last year's E3 trailer. Or, of course, the piano notes from Halo Infinite's first release trailer. And hearing the music kick in during gameplay when we saw the campaign demo really does give us this interesting vibe where the music picks up and plays through as we fight enemies and then dials it back when we're done. Sort of how Doom did it, which I actually have been playing Doom, and that music, that's gotten really close in terms of the way that Halo handled music. It's just, the style of music fits better, but it doesn't have that same factor to me like Halo did. But Doom's pretty good with their music. I'm hoping that we get some really good dynamic music implementation, just like we did in all the original Halo games, because that would make a huge difference to gameplay. And of course we have some new tracks, or at least seemingly new tracks. It was kind of hard to tell. I couldn't really discern whether they were based on a previous song from a previous Halo game or not, but they don't seem to be. The most noticeable one was during the cutscene with Master Chief and the weapon. While it doesn't seem to be based on any existing Halo song, it feels like Halo. It sounds like Halo again, and I've listened to Halo songs for a long time, and yeah, this is it. And that's it. That is my top 5 list. I know putting music at number 1 is a little weird for some of you who might be watching this who haven't watched anything from me previously, but to put it into context, music is a huge driver for any media that I consume. And Halo is one of the few games where the music, for me, is something that I will actually listen to outside of the game. When I first got an opportunity to listen to high-quality headphones through a DAC that could do full lossless audio, I played Under the Cover of Darkness from Halo CE. And after that, I listened to Never Forget from Halo 3, and it legitimately brought me to tears. This is one of those few moments in any game, or any music really, where I can really attach myself to the music. And while I'm not there with what we've heard so far with Halo Infinite, I feel like they're in the right direction. And if they are even half of what Marty O'Donnell and Michael Salvatore were in Halo, I'm extremely excited. But yeah, like I said, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this list. Let me know in the comments what you guys are excited for Halo Infinite, or if you're not excited at all, or whatever. Just let me know. I'm curious to see what people's thoughts are in Halo Infinite, because I wanted to be cautiously optimistic, and after seeing this most recent trailer, I just gave in, and I'm excited now. So that's my thoughts on it. Either way, guys, thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. Like I said, leave a comment, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Make sure to be there, and have a good one.